Cue that beat.
This is what happens. You guys just hear something Eagles, and then it's like a dog. You see a squirrel.
I would say 75% of all NFL quarterbacks can be dialed down to different flavors of Kirk Cousins. They're all just Kirk Cousins. All of them.
So there's conditions. No, I absolutely understand do not draft list. If someone's on my do not draft list, I'm not drafting him.
Hey, y'all. Welcome into the Mind the Gap podcast. Aaron Palsgrove, Ryan Wright, Tyler Hill. The Eagles won. They have won Super Bowl 59 with a belt-to-butt booty whooping of the Kansas City Chiefs. I have so many things to say that are not. We keep this podcast clean. It is 40-22. The score was 40-22. Eagles completely annihilated the Kansas City Chiefs. Ryan, where are you at? Like, come on. We won the Super Bowl, dude. Okay, sorry. Not we. We're not on the team. The Eagles won the Super Bowl.
I still feel like Jalen Hurts. I'm still actively processing how enjoyable it was to watch that game as an Eagles fan.
Are you going to the Super Bowl Friday?
I can't.
The parade?
But I wish.
Come on.
And it's so cool that Philly school systems have already canceled class on Fridays so they could with all their kids. But it's enjoyable because of the fact it feels like sweet revenge. It's something that the dynasty very well should have started 2 years ago, but it feels better that it started now rather than 2 years ago.
Let's hold off because there's a few words in football that I think get thrown around recklessly. Elite, I think, is one that people throw around way too much. Generational, clearly with Caleb Williams and Marv having the years they did, is a word that we use way too often, especially when it comes to prospects. And dynasty. Since the Patriots, there has yet to be a dynasty in football. The Chiefs were almost there, but I think a dynasty, there are parameters that a team has not met yet, and you can't say the beginning of a dynasty. You don't realize a dynasty is a dynasty when it starts. You realize it 3 to 5 years in. So I think we got to be careful with that word, just like we got to be careful with elite and generational.
But I think you could argue this is the beginning of one if they maintain this current trajectory.
I don't want to get into the hypotheticals, but yeah, okay, fine. If they maintain this current trajectory and kick the booty out of every team they go up against, yes, they may happen to finally one day possibly be a dynasty. But that's not what this is. This is that's not what this game is meant to be. It's not meant to be the beginning. It's meant to be the sequel. I've seen this going around Twitter. 2017 was A New Hope. It's Nick Foles reviving the Eagles against all odds and the underdogs, and this mentality, this beginning of this Eagles era beginning with Doug Peterson and Nick Foles. But that was like the beginning of Jason Kelsey, the beginning of Jeff Stoutland being renowned around the league, right? And then they had to completely revamp, and then they got crushed by the Chiefs, or at least emotionally crushed by the Chiefs in a heartbreaking loss, and that was the Revenge of the Sith. And now, or no, that would have been Empire Strikes Back. Now we have Revenge of the Sith. The Eagles came back, the best team in football, and kicked the snot out of the team that beat them 2 years ago. And I want to get started. We have a lot to talk about with the Eagles and I think legacy, but we got to start first with the Chiefs. We talked, the three of us, all year about how the Chiefs were not as good as their record. 15-1, but they, 17 straight one-score victories? And that record still survives.
Yeah, it was something crazy up there.
Right. They were single-handedly surviving off the backs of Patrick Mahomes. Their running game was not dominant. Their offensive line was nowhere near some of the other best in the league. Eagles, Lions, Bills. Their defense was good, not great. Had some great players, but I don't think it was nearly as good as some of the other defenses in the league. And they were surviving because Patrick Mahomes kept their heads above water. He helped them to keep winning. And what happens when you take away... I heard Danny Heifetz... No, this was Ben Solak. But Solak put this on a podcast with Mina Kimes. He said that the Chiefs were like a dam. They were a dam holding back the floodgates of losing. And everybody else was doing their best to hold it back. But Patrick Mahomes was Captain America holding a helicopter on the helipad. He was single-handedly flexing to keep this team above water. And when he broke, everything came crashing apart. The offense fell apart. The defense fell apart. Special teams fell apart. This Chiefs team broke. And Cooper DeJean broke them. Tyler, is that an accurate way of looking at it, or am I over dramatizing what happened?
I think you're over dramatizing a tad. Because honestly, one of my takeaways is that I think the Chiefs defense played fine. Even well, honestly. Like, they held the Eagles to 3 yards per carry. That is insane in and of itself. They lost the one-on-one battles on the outside, but that was the bet. We talked about it before the game. You weren't going to be able to simultaneously stop the run and have a too high look, or at least we didn't think so unless something crazy happened. They chose to try and stop the run. They got beat on a couple of deep balls, but I mean, there's a pick six in there. There's the short field off the Zach Vaughn pick. The Eagles were able to stop the Chiefs on defense a ton within their own 20-yard line, and so they were getting short fields all night. The defense got put in horrific situations, and then by the time that there was 34 points on, at that point, honestly, before that, by the time there's 21 points on the board, we're rolling. This is garbage time. Everything after that, I don't really count. So I just think the defense played well, and they did basically all they could given the situation they had, and the offense really failed them.
I hear you, but I think that the players, sure, you're right. The players played well, and they did do their best. I mean, Saquon Barkley had one of the worst games of his season, 25 carries, 57 yards, 2.3 yards per carry. Granted, he made up for it in the air, 6 catches, 40 yards in the air. Fantastic. So Saquon was still one of the best players on this Eagles offense, but he was limited by this Chiefs front. And what did he have? A long of 10. The most explosive running back we've ever seen had a long of 10 yards, right?
And that's what I'm saying is if you would have told before the game, you would have told Steve Spagnuolo and the Kansas City Chiefs defense nothing other than we are going to hold the Eagles to 3 yards a carry and Saquon is going to have a long carry of 10. They would have taken that in less than half of a second. They would have been all over that. No, literally, you wouldn't have had to tell them any passing stats, nothing about Jalen Hurts' game. They just flat would have taken that.
Agreed. But I think you're right. I think the defensive line, the Chiefs' 11 guys on the field can be happy about that. I think Spagnuolo deserves a little bit of criticism for how he didn't adjust.
Yeah, and that's what I argue is I think they overcommitted to the run.
Yes.
There were so many holes. Not even necessarily holes because
they the perfect play
a lot. But
right, the perfect representation is the Devonta Smith touchdown.
Yeah.
Because the second half starts and the Eagles are like, all right, we're going to give the ball to Saquon Barkley, and everyone thinks the ball is going to go to Saquon. He's their closer. Instead, play action, fake it to Saquon, seam route to Devonta Smith on a dagger of a touchdown.
And it still went to Saquon. They ran it 25 times.
I know. It was an overselling. It was, okay, great. This guy can go left. He can't go right, so we're going to make him go left every single time. But he keeps hitting the guy out in the corner for a corner three. You can't keep doing the exact same thing if the rest of the team can make up for it. Because Hurts did make up for it. 17 for 22, 5 incompletions. One of those was an interception on a heave where he had Nick Bolton in his jersey. I mean, he only took 2 sacks for 11 yards. He was incredible. This is one of the top 3 games of his career. The 3 best games of his career came in Super Bowl, NFC Championship. We'll get to Hurts later. I think Ryan has a soliloquy he wants to get to. But I think Spagnuolo, you're right, Tyler. They did stop the run, but I think it cost them everything.
Maybe, but also you didn't expect a pick six. You didn't expect a 14-yard drive for a touchdown.
Not a save.
Another pick in the red zone.
Exactly. And so the other one, the one play touchdown for 46 yards. But here's the drives that the Eagles scored on going down. There's the touchdown, the 69-yard drive. Right, that was beautiful. But even that was continued by a McDuffie penalty that, honestly, I didn't love. Now, I didn't love the A.J. Brown one either, so it was a makeup call.
Yeah, well,
neither of those penalties
canceled out.
Yeah. Let's get right to it. The refs were downright bad. They were not bad in favor of one team or the other, but I think they were downright bad tonight.
At least to start, I wrote down both those calls in my notes because I leaned over to a guy that I was at with a Super Bowl party. I go, man, they're calling this really, really close.
I know.
Like the AJ Brown one, I get that he hit his helmet, but that's just hand fighting. And then the
Right.
McDuffie one, he's going for the ball. The ball is thrown up there. He's trying to make a play on it. I didn't like either of those calls, but all that to say that extended the
And
drive. There were other
I
penalties that extended drives as well.
right, they missed the Jalen Carter punching Mahomes right in the face. Like these refs were just downright bad. I don't
Yeah.
think it's. I mean, Ron Torbert sucked.
But here's what we're looking at. So first drive is 69 yards for a touchdown. Then they get the interception on the next drive. That's the Hurts one where he puts it up and underthrows it. Then it's a 27-yard drive for a field goal because it's a short field. Then the pick six. Then it is a punt. So they get the stop. Then it's the interception, 14-yard touchdown drive. Like there was one drive in the first half where they actually let up points on a long drive. And then I don't know about you guys. I was going to ask this question of when you guys thought the game was over. Because when we got into halftime, I got to be honest, I was already chalking this one up in my head as an Eagles win.
Okay, so are you asking Aaron as a fan or Aaron as an analyst? Because as an analyst, I was like, it's over at halftime. Teams don't come back from this unless they have miracles. But you thought it was over before halftime?
I thought the pick six solidified it. Even though we've seen even greater comebacks like Brady 28-3, the pick six, you cannot get in the head of Patrick Mahomes like that and overcome a deficit like that. Every asset of that game, the Eagles were better.
You know
All
what?
three phases.
And that's what was the big thing for me is it wasn't just that, oh, maybe the Chiefs went on long drives and had red zone turnovers or went for it on fourth down at the 3 and got stopped. And so you're going, okay, maybe they're down, but they're moving the ball. You can see they had nothing going. So I wanted to wait for the middle 8 because I knew they were going to get the ball back coming out of the second half. And I go, okay, if they can score halftime, okay, then I could see a comeback. But once that didn't happen, dude, at that point, it's looking bad for the Chiefs. And obviously it finished bad.
I think the moment I knew it was over was the 12-play, 69-yard drive to start the half. The Jake Elliott getting the field goal to go from, 29? And it was at that point I was just like, yeah, the Eagles are just going to be the Eagles forever. I thought at half the Chiefs were going to come out and do something crazy. And then it was, 2nd and 4, Mahomes short pass to Worthy for 8. They get the first down. Mahomes sack, Mahomes scramble for 8. It doesn't matter. And then they punt. Like, when the defensive line and Jake Elliott are producing as much as they were, like Jake was 4 for 4. He was perfect. From 50 was the longest. I mean, the Eagles were firing on all cylinders, on all levels, at all times. It was absurd to watch. I know going into
the
this
right time.
Yeah, exactly. You knew Cooper was good. We all knew it. We knew he was a first-round talent, and then he gets a pick 6. We knew Zach Bond was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He gets a pick. Okay, cool. We know that Jalen Hurts has this ability in him. Great. It's when the guys who were not doing as much, Mora Ojimo, Jake Elliott, Jahan Dotson, start contributing that you're like, okay, this team cooked them. There's nothing. The Chiefs can't do anything.
Which, by the way, Cooper DeJean, my boy, number 1 graded corner.
I saw that.
PFF.
The best corner in the NFL according to PFF, grade-wise, not pure talent, but
which is crazy because he's starting opposite Q.
Yeah. The Eagles have Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell on rookie contracts. What a life. What a world.
Which is awesome. And the other thing we'll get into more with team building, but almost all of their top contracts are backloaded. And so they can keep this team together, not completely, but for the most part, they can keep the team together for at least the next 2-3 years.
What is it? 26.7 years old is the average age of a Philadelphia Eagle who in this Super Bowl. Mekhi Becton is still under 30. Like Lane Johnson said, he's got one more year in him. Jalen Hurts is going into his 5th season in the league as a 4th as a starter, 5th as a starter, 6th overall going into. Saquon is still under 30. And clearly he has juice. This team could realistically, I think they should be Super Bowl favorites going into the next season, depending on how well they retain this talent. I think there are big question marks on this team, and I think we'll save that for later when it gets more team building, but we should stick to the game itself.
Yeah, I was going to say because – oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, because I wanted to say, obviously, a lot has been talked about how Kansas City's offensive line played bad, and they did. I'm
did.
not taking any of that away. They
They
definitely
did shuffle players.
They shuffled players, yup, and we'll get into why arm length matters at tackle. We'll be referencing this game. Joe Tooney, he did his best. He tried, but
there's one rep. There is one rep that is lodged in my mind, and that is Josh Sweat dog walking him backwards.
And it's because Josh Sweat
As
has
if he's
either
a sled.
34 or 36-inch arms, and Joe Tooney has 32-inch arms. So when we talk about arm length with tackles and edges, guys, it matters. It's not just something you throw out because it sounds good on tape. No, it matters. But all that to say, guys, I thought Mahomes played bad.
He was terrible.
Because he stepped up into pressure. He stepped out into pressure. He had no pocket awareness at any point this game. And I know,
unironically, this is the worst game of his career. Like I don't think that's hyperbole. Even the Eagles got to him early. He was getting pressured by everybody. Granted, his offensive line did not play well. He didn't have help. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. Right?
When everyone D-Hop on an out route like that,
he did. D-Hop also dropped a perfectly open pass.
Yeah,
missed Kelsey a bunch of times.
Yeah, like he looked rattled. Vic Fangio no longer undefeated versus Patrick Mahomes, and I think he's in his head. It's crazy. That's the best case scenario. The Eagles beat the Chiefs, and not only did we beat the Chiefs, we bent them over. Like, we spanked them with a wooden spoon. It was unreal how defeated Patrick Mahomes was. The picture of him frowning is everywhere for a reason.
Which I believe, and we can rewind the tape, I think I said this very well could be a shutout or a blowout before I gave my 31-27 prediction.
Yeah, but then you predicted it 31-27.
I mean,
it's on one hand, on the other.
So that's what I was literally about to make this point, though, because you guys picked the Eagles, I picked the Chiefs, but we all picked it close.
Right.
No one saw this coming because
No.
we thought that Patrick would play, if not perfect, at least very, very good. 8.5
we thought he would
10,
look
9
like
out of 10.
Patrick Mahomes and not Kenny Pickett.
And he didn't, man. And because that was the only way they were going to stay in this game is if they went on 12-play drive, 15-play drive, 4-yard run, 5-yard pass, stay efficient the whole time, get the ball out in less than 2.5 seconds, and none of that was able to happen.
No. It's unreal. And I didn't expect Mahomes to vanish in the way that he did. And the Eagles to have a 6-sack game. Jalen Hunt looked like one of the best 3 players out there. He was incredible. 3 rookies, Cooper, and Jalix for the Eagles, all making massive performances in the Super Bowl. Sweat looked incredible. And the thing that I don't think can go undermentioned is the Eagles' big splash in free agency. It wasn't Zach Bond. It wasn't anybody on the offensive line. It wasn't Mekhi Becton. It was Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff was who they gave that massive replacing Hassan Reddick contract to. And what was Bryce Huff doing? He didn't play.
Riding Pine.
He didn't play. Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham started on his edge. Josh Sweat and Jalen Hunt started on the other, with Milton Williams, Mora Ojimo, and Jalen Carter in the middle. Also, Jordan Davis played really well in this game. Like, he had one play where he just had burst. Unreal how the Eagles were able to do this. What's the line from Breaking Bad? He can't keep getting away with this. I don't understand how Howie can continue to build teams and take the leftovers from other teams. Like, freaking Mekhi Becton and Zach Bond and Vic Fangio are the 3 leftover players leftover figures that I want to bring up, and he turns them into gold.
It's coaching, dude.
It's incredible.
It's coaching. Yeah.
Let's get there. Nick Sirianni, Super Bowl champion Nick Sirianni, 2-time Super Bowl visitor Nick Sirianni, one of the greatest coaches in Eagles history, locked in, maybe the greatest. He's won a Super Bowl. He's one of 2 coaches in the history of the Eagles to win a Super Bowl. It's him and Doug Peterson, and Sirianni is a better coach than Doug was. We wanted him fired. I wanted him fired a year ago.
I did too.
Like, he went into that meeting with Jeffrey Lurie, a meeting Doug Peterson did not walk away from, and he walked out of it and built a Super Bowl winning team. I don't understand. I don't get it. He is the ultimate vibes guy, and I don't know what to do with him. I don't know how to quantify what he does. How do you quantify, besides winning percentage and rings, what Nick Sirianni brings to the table, because he doesn't call plays. He doesn't build a scheme. He's there. It's part of his team, but he doesn't build a scheme. How do you, like, what does he do besides win? And what does he, I don't know what to, I feel like I'm missing something.
I don't know what you're necessarily referring to as what you're missing, but it is one of these moments where we have to just be like, all right, swallow our words. We were wrong. It's been a great ride, and I'm so very hopeful that it continues. Now, I will say, I tweeted out, I wanted Kellen Moore to stay.
I did
Nick
too.
Sirianni stood up there on the podium, was like, Kellen, run it back with us.
That's not what he said, but we're not going to say what he said.
I wish Kellen Moore did stay. Number one, again, could be the start of a dynasty. Two, I don't know who in their right mind would take the Saints job with how the roster is constructed, the current contracts, the salary cap situation that they have down
Do
there,
you want to fill the
and the
people in
draft picks.
in case they hadn't seen the news?
I mean, Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator of the Eagles, is now head coach of the New Orleans Saints as of this morning or this afternoon. And we knew it was coming, and it's kind of something different from when Shane Steichen was that whole ordeal happened. But, geez, I genuinely thought there was a sliver of chance that he would stay.
I did too. I hoped, because continuity really matters. It matters in all things, in your home life, in your professional life, but especially in sports, where you are relying so heavily on the 100 people in this organization. Jalen Hurts has to rely on not just his offensive line, not just his receivers, but his coaching staff to call plays. They have to rely on him to know what he wants. And Kellen Moore, I don't think he was the best offensive coordinator we've seen in a long time. And I don't think he was the best this season at all. But I do think he called a really good season.
Yeah, and he adjusted. Heavy pass guy, changed for the run just for the Eagles. He utilized their strengths.
He helped Jalen get out of his bubble a little bit. Jalen, I think, is a very particular quarterback, and we saw him run bootlegs. We saw him move outside of the pocket. A lot of the successes Jalen had was Kellen Moore's beautiful play calling. We talked about that seam route to Devontae Smith that gave them the, 46? Something? 46 yard,
46 yards.
46-yard touchdown. That was Kellen. The pass, the catch was Hurts and
like
Devontae.
54 air yards or something, which is like the second longest of the season.
It was a beautiful call where you play against what the Chiefs want to do, and you beat them at their game, and it was perfect. Moore had a really good game, and I think he should have stayed for his career. I think it would have been wise. The Saints job wasn't a job that you want.
Yeah, head coaching jobs just don't come open too often. You know, for most people, you wait a year and you try and be patient, and most people are not Ben Johnson, where it keeps going and you're able to get at the perfect job you want. There's plenty of coordinators that unfortunately don't capitalize when they are on top and don't get a coaching job. And so I think it's a combination of that. Obviously, the money is a step up, and then just the chance to be a head coach. I think guys, for the most part, really crave that, and they want that. They want to see, hey, can I do it as being one of the 32 guys in the world that's in this position? So I think that's what's tantalizing. We've said a bunch of times how much we don't like the situation, and Moore knows that, but he's a smart guy. He's got a plan, and it might flame out. It might not.
And I just want to add on how successful this offense was during the playoffs. I feel like sometimes we talk about the talent on both sides of the ball, and sometimes it's taking away from where Hurts should be in QB rankings. But all that aside, when you think playoffs, you think the best of the best defenses, the best offenses. And for the most part, we got that. But shout out Tucker Bagley on Twitter. He said the 145 points scored by the Eagles during the postseason is an NFL record. They also became the first team with a plus 70 point differential in the postseason since the 2000 Ravens. That's some history. That's crazy.
Which we'll be talking about the 2000 Ravens later when we hit a different segment. So I'm glad
let's
you brought it up.
get right to it. Why wait? Like this Eagles team, we talked about how incredible they are. We talked about how young they are, but at every level, I think they were better than the Chiefs. Like we talked about on our last pod, we went through and step by step we looked at it. Trent McDuffie, Chris Jones, fantastic players. But this Eagles depth, their 1-53, is better than the Chiefs. And the two that we were competing against, the two that we were constantly considering, was Hurts and Mahomes. And Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes on the biggest stage. You could easily argue that he
Twice.
outplayed Mahomes in back-to-back Super Bowls. So I think it's crazy that this Eagles team, I said that they could be one of the best 1-53 rosters in NFL history. Tyler, you have actual research to back up my half-baked take?
Yes, so there's a couple options of teams. I combined, there was an article that came out on ESPN Plus talking about the DVOA rankings, drive value over average, of the teams that have won the Super Bowl. The Eagles were in the teens. This year's Eagles were in the teens for that. And then also point differentials. So off of StatHead, your season point differential compared. So here's the contenders that I came up with for the best team since 2000, because I was not going to do the teams from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. I wasn't alive. So the Eagles had 160 point differential, which is number 7 of teams that won the Super Bowl. That's the other criteria I use, is that it's teams that won the Super Bowl, because I think to qualify for this list, you should have won the Super Bowl, been the best team in the NFL that year. So
Sensible.
the contenders, 2013 Seattle Seahawks. They had a
That was a Legion of Boom, right?
Legion of Boom, yep.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, Doug Baldwin, all those guys. So they were
Half-decent
plus
football.
186 for their point differential, so 26 better. And they were just talented, man. I was going through it. Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, all the
Marshawn
guys
Lynch.
on the D-line, Marshawn Lynch, like,
Russell Wilson at his best.
and that was when Russell Wilson stopped being a guy they were carrying and actually became, he's a top 10 quarterback
Right.
who is carrying this offense now. So that was a team, I think, from a pure talent perspective, stacks up, had the better point differential. Ryan talked about it, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. I think the offense probably takes them out of this, just when you look at the overall talent perspective. But they were
Flacco?
plus 168. No, this is the 2000s. This is Trent Dilfer.
Oh my gosh, yeah, okay.
Their offense was bad. And so that's where I would probably take the Eagles, but they had a better point differential. And I mean, obviously that defense was ridiculous. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, we don't have to go down all the names, but
Right.
just offenses were terrified to play them. 2016 New England Patriots, they had the number 1 point differential of Super Bowl winners at plus 191. I also don't think they were as talented. This is Tom Brady at the peak of his powers, but it was Julian Edelman. It was Gronk only played 8 games that year. So
This is including regular season, though, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
so
you got it.
something we have to think about. Jalen Hurts has not lost a game since week 4 of the regular season. Week 18, they played the Commanders. It was the Kenny Pickett game,
and he was out. Yeah.
and he was
And
out.
and it was still very close.
Add on to the fact that Jalen Hurts played for most of it, yes, but it was garbage time for probably 25 of the 60 minutes
Of the Super Bowl?
of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Dominating performance. And so this is another one where I think I would take the Eagles over the Patriots, just from the pure talent perspective. The Patriots had a great year, but
Well, let's
I mean,
talk
you
about
take away garbage time, wipe those 22 points off the board for the Chiefs, it very well could have been a shutout.
yeah.
If the Eagles played with the same intensity they came out of the locker room with, shutout. Easy.
So what are those, Tyler, say those names again. You had
I got 2 more real quick. I should
Okay,
have
yeah.
quicker through this, but the other is the 2004 New England Patriots. This is when Brady's starting to come into his own, but they still have Ty Law, Teddy Bruschi, all those guys on the defensive line. Mike Vrabel actually played for that team as well. So that was a really talented team. And then the 2005 Pittsburgh Steelers. So that was the year they won with Ben as the rookie quarterback. Troy Polamalu, Ike Taylor, James Harrison, all Joey Porter, all these guys on the defense as well. So we got the 2013 Seattle Seahawks, Legion of Boom, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, the best defense ever, probably. The 2016 New England Patriots, most point differential of any Super Bowl winner, but is the talent there? Maybe not. 2004 New England Patriots, really, really talented team, beat the St. Louis Rams, one of the best teams ever in the Super Bowl. And then the 2005 Pittsburgh Steelers, Big Ben's first year.
All right, so that is 5 teams. that you have. I want to run down this list because I want to actually discuss this because as the Eagles fan in me wants a definitive answer, and I want us to get there. I'm going to let's start with the most recent and work our way back towards the 2000 Ravens because I think the Ravens are the real conversation, and I want us to get there. Starting in 16, we have the Patriots. That's Tom Brady, and I'm going to eliminate them pretty quickly because Tom Brady is the GOAT, and I think his performance adds up a lot. But also Julian Edelman. Like, if he's their best receiver, are they really a Hall of Fame team? Are they really one of the best teams of all time? What are y'all's thoughts on that? Or am I too quickly dismissing Jules?
I'm with you. I don't think they had the talent that the Eagles have.
Okay, so we're going to cross them off my list. Literally, I'm writing a list here. 16 Pats gone. 13 Legion of Boom. This team is so nostalgic to me. I don't know. I think this is that one's really tough. Tyler, where do you land on this one? Because I think the Eagles might be. This feels very even.
I saw a lot of similarities, and honestly, you said we're trying to work our way to the Ravens. I thought the Seahawks is where I was going to land, and just because I do think that at this point, the Hurts-Wilson conversation, the 2013 Wilson and now Hurts, I think that's pretty similar. I think I might take Wilson by a hair, but I'm not going to fault anyone for taking Hurts there. Both O-lines were good. Both running games were really good. Marshawn Lynch is probably not as good as Saquon, but again, that one's pretty close. And then that Seahawks defense, just going back through the secondary that they had, the defensive line they had, the linebackers, prime Bobby Wagner to pair with AJ Wright, that level of talent defensively, I would say they have a better defense than the Eagles. But then I would say the Eagles probably have a better offense than the Seahawks. And so I do think that one's really close.
I think it's going to come down to me to offensive line. And I think that if you look at this Eagles offensive line, you have one Hall of Famer, Lane Johnson. I think you have a borderline Hall of Famer, depending on how the rest of his career goes, in Jordan Mailata, who's going to be, I think, in the conversation at least, because of his dominance through this Eagles stretch. He's been the Eagles offensive tackle through the Nick Foles Super Bowl, through both Jalen Hurts Super Bowls. Like, he's been here. I think Dickerson is incredible. Juergens played a really good season, and Becton's a great revival story. I'm going to have... Dude, I don't even know. This is such a Ryan, push me one way or the other.
It's hard, dude. I think Seahawks definitely get the nod at linebacker.
Yeah.
But secondary even. Putting Cooper, DeJean, and Quinyon Mitchell, yes, they're rookies. And, like, sure, they might not be as old and have as long as a career, but play, I'd put them up there with Legion of Boom. Those two alone had a phenomenal season.
Man. That's
a
CJ
crazy statement.
Johnson had a phenomenal season.
Yeah,
Slay is in there.
No. Stop it. Stop it.
Dude,
You got too big for your britches on that one.
No, I see what you're saying
He's
at
about to
corner.
retire, but he's still a phenomenal quarterback. Yes,
Right, but
he's a liability at times, and he'll give up the occasional big play. Big play Slay, that's funny.
Yeah,
but dude, it was a stacked secondary this year.
I agree, and I think
number
the
one
depth,
defense.
who did they have behind Richard Sherman is the real question.
Well, so it was Richard Sherman was the corner, and then you had Brandon Browner was the second corner, the big. He was that 6'4" guy, really lanky. For me, it's safety that actually takes the Legion of Boom, I would say, is a better secondary because Earl Thomas was first-team All-Pro that year.
And
Cam Chancellor was...
Those are two, like, Hall of Fame safeties.
Yeah, and as much as I do love Blankenship and Gardner Johnson, both are very good players. They're just not Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor.
No, Blankenship is a very above-average player, and I think that's all he ever will be. He's good at being a little bit above average, and he's going to be a...
Yeah, I would say there's nothing wrong with that, for sure.
No.
Yeah.
No, but him and Coop are going to start an exciting Whites podcast, and it's going to be the highlight of his career. I mean, I'm not kidding, by the way. They are actually starting a podcast, The Exciting Whites, with him and Cooper DeJean. I could not love anything more. I don't know where I'm landing. This is really hard.
This is where I was going back and forth in my head the most, for sure.
If anything, I think we can all agree 05 Steelers is probably 3.
Behind the Ravens.
Yeah. So 05 Steelers at 3.
I would say that for sure.
and then right now we're just deciding between the Eagles and Seahawks.
Right,
I
but
think
we're
running
picking,
back.
we're deciding at one, which is
I
the
know.
craziness of this exercise and the history that we're witnessing. We talked about this team and my take about how this could be one of the greatest rosters ever. I said it, and my first thought was, "Am I telling the truth?" And then I kept, "Yeah, I am. This is one of the greatest rosters ever assembled, and that's why we're doing this exercise to prove it."
Running back, Saquon
Eagles.
or Lynch.
Eagles,
I go
Saquon.
Saquon.
Eagles.
Yep.
O-line,
Eagles,
also the Eagles. Tight end,
Eagles. I think Dallas played out of his mind during this last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember who the Seahawks tight end was
And I
in
think that
2013 because it
recency
wasn't
bi-
Olsen yet, but
they had Jimmy Graham for for a second, didn't they?
yeah, that might
might
have
have been.
actually been
No,
who
I
it was. No, Kellen Davis, Zach Miller, Luke Wilson, all blocking tight ends.
Okay, there we go. So tight end to the
tight end.
Eagles.
Receivers, Eagles.
I'm not doing any fullbacks. Yeah, receivers, Eagles.
Quarterback.
D-line.
Oh, before we move to defense, I think quarterback. I think that version of Russ and this version of Jalen are fairly equivalent to each other.
I would coin flip it if it
I was going to call it a
comes
wash.
down to it.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Defense, defensive. Let's do
D-line,
it.
I'm giving to the Eagles.
I
but
think you got it
linebacker
after-
and
Oh,
secondary.
guys, I don't know.
Linebacker and secondary, I think the Seahawks got it.
Yeah. So defensive line at this point for the Eagles, it was Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Red Bryant. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this name. Benson Mayowa, and then Brandon Mebane were that was kind of the core of
Going up
those
against
teams.
Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, and
Ojomo.
a sprinkling of Jalen Hunt, and Moro Ojomo. I
Yeah,
think the
Eagles.
fact that
I think that's probably Eagles. Yeah.
I think so too.
None of those Seahawks got massive contracts either.
No, but Bennett was a good player. I think I don't
Well,
want to
Averill was a massive contract for the Seahawks, but
right. I think
see what you're saying.
Averill
Like,
and
they're
Bennett
not
were the
gonna go.
big names.
yeah.
Secondary, I think we agree.
We got to split it up, I think, because I think corners
To
the
corner-
Eagles get. But
split up corner and
safety-
secondary?
I don't really.
Tyler, Cooper DeJean, and Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell gave up one touchdown all season. I
because
believe.
no one threw the ball his way. And I wanted to add on to that. When did we see Quinyon Mitchell in this game? When did you notice him in the Super Bowl, Tyler?
Well, probably the pick six.
He was not in the game plan.
Hunt
The
returning.
Chiefs, right? The Chiefs didn't throw his way. Like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid saw Quinyon Mitchell and said, "Yeah, no, we're good." A rookie from Tulane, and they're like, "Nah, we're chilling."
Toledo.
Oh my gosh, dang it! Now I sound like an idiot. You're right.
TG5 team. I see where your head was at.
Yeah. All right, they're close. They're whatever. I feel like a goon.
It's
I
cool
wa-
no one talks about.
Yeah, I watched that. I watched him play in a bowl game. I was at the Boca Raton Bowl for Liberty versus Toledo. I watched Quinyon play there.
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't notice
Yeah.
him because Liberty doesn't throw the ball.
If we're going like weighted roster with how we just broke it down, it goes to the Eagles.
I think so too.
And it's so hard to say as a Eagles fan as well because I want to be unbiased.
So
But this team was the best of all time.
I think since 2000, I don't want to say all time because it's a different game, right? It's a very different game.
2000s.
But since Tyler, I think we've both made our case. I think we're both landing on one side of the fence. Where are you?
No, because honestly, I think this is it's a toss up because I do have the corners. Richard Sherman was the best corner in the league at that point, and as much as I
Right.
love Quinyon, he's not, and so
No.
that's where I would take the
He's top
corners
five.
to them. We'd have to go through it, but maybe
Coop's apparently number one.
Yeah, according to PFF.
PFF. But I do think it's a toss up. So I wouldn't get mad either way. I think I would lean Eagles just because of the offense, and then their defense was still very, very good. So
Right.
I think I would go with you guys there.
I think
I just wanted to add, I think it's so funny. I try not to do this, but I'm guilty. I loathe when people use PFF as like a measurement tool when they're trying to support their argument. It's just funny to throw it out there and be like,
It's a
oh,
tool.
PFF.
It's a
like,
stat.
said they were number one.
It's
But
the
in
same thing
reality,
as
they could have been like the 10th best corner in the league.
right. It's a tool. It's a stat. It's a quarterback rating. It's passer rating. It's QBR. It's whatever you want to call it.
It's useful, but not everything.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Same as a 40 time. It's useful. It's not everything. So, shout out PFF. Hire me. Wow. I can't believe we just put the Eagles up there with Legion of Boom. Realistically, let's have that Jalen Hurts conversation.
Ryan,
Let's do it, Ryan.
Yikes.
Floor.
I knew this was coming. I said that Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback after the Super Bowl. And I sat back and I'm like, is he really a top 5 quarterback? And I could, without a doubt, say yes now. And I will go through the top 10 with
Do
you
it.
guys.
Right now. Let's
And
go.
You straight up can tell me if I am
Ready to go.
All right. Number 1, Lamar Jackson. I think
Controversial,
Lamar
but I don't think that's a hill that
This
moving
is
on.
the focus of the
should
conversation.
have
No.
3 MVPs.
It's controversial, but we gotta go. We gotta move it.
All
Keep
right.
it going.
Josh Allen, number 2. I think, yes, you got a sympathy MVP, but
People are comparing Josh Allen to Joel Embiid in the year that Joel Embiid won it over Nikola Jokic,
yeah, pretty much.
which is a crazy comp.
Lamar should have 3. Josh Allen got that 1. But
Can I assume that 3 is Mahomes?
no.
Oh my gosh.
Are you going
Number
to put
3.
Hurts over Mahomes? I swear, Ryan. I'll close the podcast right now.
Number 3, Joe Burrow.
This is a good list, but they should be 2, 3, 4, and not 1, 2, 3.
He's going to put Hurts above Mahomes because he said he wasn't 5.
Tell me.
And I can't believe
It makes sense though.
with a straight face.
When I get through this list, you're going to be like, "Oh, dang, maybe he is." Number
No.
6 and 7, I could switch interchangeably. But
Just get to it. Get to it. Stop teasing.
4, Jalen Hurts.
Oh my gosh.
Jalen Hurts has outplayed Mahomes in both.
Keep
games
it going.
they've played.
Where's Mahomes?
Mahomes is number 5.
Oh, I'm gonna end this
Baker
podcast.
Mayfield is 6. And I was like looking at it. I'm like, Baker Mayfield, yes, terrible beginning of the career, but this is Buccaneers Baker Mayfield. That is someone I could genuinely sit back and build a roster around. He's
The way you said that made it sound
costing
like I could build a
60,000
family with this guy.
Well, he's not costing $60 million a year. I could build a roster around Baker Mayfield effectively. Put that other 30 mil towards someone else. So that's all I'll say there. But Baker Mayfield is a dog. He will put his head out for that team. And Tyler knows it. He's taking some
He's going to
hit.
try and truck somebody.
Yeah.
I love Baker. I can't deny it. All right. Who do you,
Number 7
keeping on.
is Jaden Daniels, who, again, I could argue Jaden Daniels over Baker Mayfield. That's kind of interchangeable.
I like all of this except for 4 and 5.
Okay,
Just
well,
move 5 to 1 and 4.
Let him finish the list.
Okay, yeah.
Just
I'm
real
sorry.
Quick.
So now we're on 8, but again, you're going to notice there's some quarterbacks not listed.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I know.
8, Jared Goff. I think he's still an elite quarterback, and I use that term flippantly. Jared Goff,
Wait, you're intentionally using it flippantly?
I'm intentionally using it flippantly.
We just talked about not using it flippantly.
I know.
Oh my god.
Just let him get through it.
No, I don't want to, Tyler.
Still a phenomenal quarterback, still
been a-
under 30.
It's been a rough
Jared
day.
Goff
This is just
can
making it
still
worse.
compete with the big dogs. Number 9 is Stroud. I don't think anyone has any problems there. And number 10, actually, I'll do my honorable mentions. You ready?
Oh my goodness.
Kyler is outside the top 10. Dak is outside the top 10. Brock Purdy, not even touching the top 10. I don't know what 49er fans are smoking.
Weed. It's California.
Trevor Lawrence outside the top 10. Tua outside the top 10. Jordan Love, potential my butt. Stafford outside the top 10. I'm giving the 10th spot to Herbert, even though we just flamed him for losing a playoff game and throwing 4 picks. Dude is still a phenomenal quarterback. He just doesn't show it when it matters most. And yes, that could really hurt him later in his career, but this was his first playoff game.
I'm really struggling to comprehend this list. Just give me 10 minutes to try and process.
It's not a bad list.
I never said it was.
And I think beyond
It's a bad list.
maybe
I
4 or
just now I
5,
said it's a bad list.
most people would agree with me. But Lamar Jackson should be 1. Joe Burrow.
Right, we're not talking. Okay, but we're not talking about this because you have Lamar at 1. We're talking about this.
We're talking about Jalen Hurts
at 4. So I want to hear why you have Jalen Hurts at 4. Lamar at 1. I'm like, I don't agree, but fine. He's 3 for me, so it's like whatever. Why is Jalen Hurts at 4?
He's 2 for me. I have Patrick then Lamar.
Well, that's what if you 1, 2, 3 of Mahomes, Allen, Jackson for most people, however order you put that, I'm like whatever.
Most people, not Ryan.
But let Ryan, why is Jalen Hurts at number 4?
All right. First of all, I just want to shout out the Jordan brand because that commercial, Love Hurts,
It was so good.
it just does something to you. The dude has so much swagger, just how he speaks, just the music behind it as well. Oh, amazing. All right. Beyond that, yes, I made Jalen Hurts Glazer now. We will get that recorded, clip it, whatever. When I think about the best of the best, I think about quarterbacks that show up when it matters. Level play is in there and it is factored, but Dan Marino, all-time great. We will always consider him an all-time great, but he'll never be at the top because he didn't win when it mattered. Yes, I don't think that Dolphins defense was the best in the league like Jalen Hurts had. But Jalen Hurts really still outplayed every single quarterback he played this year beyond week 4. He has some limitations. I think it's really going to be interesting to see who this next OC is because Aaron wants to argue that he is a system quarterback, but I would argue he's not.
Well, can I say my piece?
Sure.
He's a system quarterback, but he's not running an offensive coordinator system. He's running his system. This has been the exact same offense we have seen since Shane Steichen. Simple, go balls, run game. Not a lot of over the middle, not a lot of bootleg, not a lot of Hurts on the move.
A lot of RPOs.
Right, exactly. Lots of RPOs, lots of read options. This is not a Kellen Moore offense. This was a Jalen Hurts offense that Kellen Moore adjusted. It was not a Shane Steichen offense. It was a Jalen Hurts offense that Shane Steichen adjusted. The reason that Brian Johnson flamed the heck out in Philadelphia is because it was a Jalen Hurts offense that he didn't know how to adjust. He let Jalen get his way too much. Jalen is very particular, and he has things that he's good at, and he likes to play into that. He's good at balls down the sideline. He's good at seam balls. He's really good at running the football. What is he not good at? Throwing over the middle, throwing on the run, that kind of thing. He's not good in a dirty pocket either, which is like why he likes RPOs, to give him a clean pocket. Hurts is very good at, and he knows at what he's very good at, so he has systems built around him in that way. He is a system quarterback because every time we see him, he operates in the system that he created. He created this system in Philadelphia, and we have seen it year after year after year, and when it's at its best, it is great. But when has it been at its best? With a good offensive coordinator. Right, he needs someone to push the boundaries and push him out of the system. His
and
default
we saw that
setting.
with Brian Johnson.
What do you mean?
The lack thereof.
Right, thank you. Yeah, Johnson didn't push him outside of his system. He didn't push him outside of his comfort zone. Moore started to, which is why we saw that play to Devonta Smith on the sidelines where Hurts was falling out of bounds as he threw it. We're seeing more and more magic because they're asking him to do more. I think Hurts is a system quarterback, not in the same way that Brady was, where Brady operates in a system and he is just pull trigger, be computer. Hurts is not a computer. Hurts is just someone who needs the pillows to be at 54 degrees Fahrenheit before he goes to sleep. Everything needs to be perfect for him to succeed.
You won a Super Bowl. Who cares what temperature your pillows are?
You asked.
Right.
So
winning, and this is my thing with the Jalen Hurts discourse. I'll start he's a good quarterback because I'm about to say a lot of negative things about him.
No shot.
No, but I'm about to say a lot of negative things about him, and I want to say before that he is a good quarterback. he has a lot of strengths.
I feel like
right?
this is like a Jackson Dart conversation where we just sit here and listen.
Well,
while
Jackson
you rip our-
Dart does not have a lot of strengths, so there's a difference there. But for me, just in general, and I'll get into the flaws that I think he has, but the Super Bowl for me didn't change who Jalen Hurts was as a quarterback. I had him comfortably top
Change
12.
who Mahomes was?
No.
It takes him temporarily to where I don't think he's for sure going to be the GOAT. So I guess a little bit.
Oh, that's a fair
we need to start that conversation as well.
We do.
But he threw one-on-one deep balls well. He's always done that well. He ran well. He's always done that well.
Hold up. 72 yards, most in the Super Bowl by a quarterback. He did not run well. He was excellent. Give the man credit.
Sure, fine. But like,
fastest we've seen him look all season.
Whatever vocabulary you want to put on it, that's not different than what we've seen out of Jalen Hurts before. That's my point. And then he hit open guys when they were there, like Goddard on the wide open over route when there was no one within 10 yards, stuff like that. He hits them when they're there, which that's a compliment. That's not a backhanded compliment. There are people that can't do that. So all those things he was good at before. I can't put him top 8 though, because
top 8?
No. Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Burrow, Daniels, Stroud, Herbert, Stafford, and then I have them in the same range as Mayfield, Goff, Prescott, Love, Lawrence, Kyler, Purdy. That's like the tier.
Okay. So here's how I broke it down. I have my top 4, right? Which is the 4 MVPs, right? Burrow, Allen, Lamar, Mahomes. That's not the order, but those are the 4. In the order, to be precise, is currently Mahomes, Jackson, really, really close right now, but still Mahomes over Jackson, Allen, Burrow. And then when you get to 5 through 9, I have those guys in a very tight tier. And that tier is Hurts, Mayfield, Daniels, Goff, Herbert. Right? I think they're all very similar, and I think something that we're not talking about is Jalen Hurts. There's that unquantifiable MJ Kobe winner mentality, and it's not like we can't look at it on a stat sheet, right? You can't say, "Oh my gosh, he has 71% WNR." That's a stat that does not exist. I made it up. WNR like winner. He doesn't. It's not a stat you can quantify. It's not like he runs a 4.3 40. He just gets better in the bigger moments. And how do you quantify that in your rankings? Because you agree, right? His 3 best games of his career are when? Super Bowl, Eastern Conference Championship. Or NFC Championship.
But then one of his worst games ever was the wild card in the playoffs last year. So, like, maybe he gets better, but also
he's a system quarterback.
He's had bad playoff games. Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's why I can't put him top 8. Like, that's the whole thing. Is that Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Burrow, Daniels, Stroud, Herbert, Stafford, they're not system quarterbacks.
I don't want to pick nits about there's Stroud is the one I keep hearing, and I'm just like, I can't do that.
Maybe,
it's
but
hard
also,
after this
you
past
said how
year,
bad
but
Bobby Slowick was all year, and his O-line.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I mean,
but you just beat on Hurts for saying that his system is the issue when Stroud couldn't succeed in a bad system. So,
yeah, but we've never seen Jalen Hurts have a bad system. Like,
it's
only been
Brian Johnson. Last season, we had a bad play caller, and Hurts barely succeeded. So
right,
I think
and Stroud played better this year than Hurts did last year.
I have Hurts above
that out there.
I have Hurts above Stroud.
He did.
I think my top 4 of Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, Burrow, Herbert is still 5 for me because I do think he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But I also think there's a steep drop off after Burrow. Herbert, Daniels at 6, and then I think I have Hurts, and then Mayfield, Goff, Stroud. That's where I'm at.
Okay, so here's why I can't do that. Jalen Hurts is number 3 in sack percentage at 9.5%. You know who he is with on that list at 1 and 2? That would be Will Levis and Caleb Williams. That's not really a list you would like to find yourself on. He has the 4th highest.
He takes the most sacks in the league?
That's by percentage, so the percentage of plays that you run that are sacks.
Okay, so
Levis has less sacks.
How far is that going back? Is that this season?
That's this season, yeah.
Okay.
But this is
Jalen Hurts.
This has always been a Jalen thing, though.
Jalen Hurts also only passes it 20 to 25 times a game, which
is why I use percentage.
Okay.
because it's the rate. Like, it doesn't matter how many
Rate at which
times.
they're sacked.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then fourth highest pressure to sack rate, and third highest time to throw. So what does that tell you? That tells you that his O-line is very good, gives him time. I think no one would argue that. And he still takes
Not getting
the
it out.
third most sacks by percentage and has the fourth highest pressure to sack, while also having the third most throwaways. So
Who cares if you win?
But like, that's not an argument for why a quarterback's good.
So
Yes, it
just not.
is.
I think there's a middle.
Then Terry
a middle.
Bradshaw, look, we had this agreement that Terry Bradshaw is as good as Joe Montana and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Actually,
but-
Terry Bradshaw's better than Josh Allen because he won, right?
No, stop. You are not giving enough credit for victory, and Ryan, you are giving too much credit. Jalen Hurts
I'm not
elevate.
talking about his skill, though. Like, I'm midway through talking about why, skill-wise, I don't think he's there.
All right, keep going.
He is 6th in turnover-worthy play percentage last year. So what does, again, this tell you? That means that he is taking a lot of sacks and a lot of turnover-worthy plays, a lot of negative plays with the most talented offense in the league, and that's where it comes into play. That he, like, I don't know how we can, in one segment, talk about the Eagles being the best team of the 2000s and then try and divorce situation from it when we talk about Hurts. You can't. Third, middle of the field is still a weakness, and so is drop back passing. 3 INTs between the numbers from 10 to 19 yards. That's the most of any area. He doesn't throw there a lot. 4th worst passing grade by PFF on straight dropbacks. 15th in dropback success rate overall. Again, with the offense around him being insane. So that's why I started out with his strengths and saying he's good, because he has things he does well. But he has a lot of things he doesn't. And so that's why I have those guys above him, because they do more things well and don't have as many weaknesses.
I
So
hear you.
You're all skill, no win. And I'm all win, half skill.
But we're talking about an individual player
I think
in a game of 11 people. Like, there has to be some divorcing from that.
there is. And again, I do think you two are on such opposite ends of the spectrum, and you need to meet in the middle, because I think, Tyler, I agree. But you're giving too much credit to the rest of his team. He's at the most important position in sports, and he is a Super Bowl champion. And he has been at this level for 2 of his last 3 seasons, and he's still very young. That said, Ryan, winning is not everything. Well, it is everything in the end of the day, but you can't just use winning as a quantifiable stat to rank a quarterback over another.
For quarterback, like, obviously, like, if we're grading safeties, I'm not using the same metric for winning.
Right. But Quinyon Mitchell isn't a top 5. He's not a top 2 corner in the league because he won the Super Bowl. Right? You got to look at numbers. That said, I think the reason that this unquantifiable winner mentality, winner ability to win in the moment matters is because of his ability to elevate in the biggest moments. In the NFC Championship game, he destroys the Commanders. Against the Chiefs, he beats them 40-22. It should have been way worse. The Chiefs scored 2 touchdowns in garbage time. Against the Chiefs last time, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes and lost. But it wasn't his fault that they lost. He was incredible. Hurts elevates himself to the level of the team. Granted, he needs the people around him to help him get there. But when have we ever seen a quarterback drag a team to the Super Bowl that's not one of the 2 greatest of all time? You need your guys around you to get where you are trying to go, and that is the Super Bowl. So he has gotten to the Super Bowl. Yeah, he's had help, sure. Brock Purdy had help getting to the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford had help getting to the Super Bowl. Tom Brady had Rob Gronkowski getting to the Super Bowl. This is a team sport. You don't do it by yourself. So to say that because he had help, he is not good is a fallacy. But to say that he is incredible and ignore the people around him is also a fallacy. Again, y'all got to meet in the middle. I think Hurts has proven he is one of the best quarterbacks in this league. He is not one of the elite top tier, but his unquantifiable winning mentality, ability to elevate, matters. I really think it does, which is why I have him above guys like Goff and Mayfield and Stroud. Because he's won it at the biggest moment, and he has proven he can do it. Justin Herbert has proven he cannot do it yet. Lamar Jackson can't get out of the second round. Josh Allen loses to Patrick Mahomes. Jalen Hurts didn't lose to Mahomes. Like, there is something to be said about his ability to prove that he can do it.
Tyler, to put it in perspective, media members are already talking about this being like the beginning of Jalen Hurts' Hall of Fame career.
Okay,
Right, I
stop it.
disagree. Like,
That's just
I'm not saying a word on whether
That's
or not
first take. I'll get out. You can't do that.
he will or will not. But if he plays at this level for, mind you, I think he's 26.
Yeah, he's young.
So plays at this level, give or take until he's what, 33, 34. That's what, 8 years?
But by that math, he would have won 4 Super Bowls by then. So we can't just super sim like we're in Madden.
Or 5 or 6.
I think Jalen Hurts has proven that he should be in the upper echelon of quarterbacks, not the top echelon, but he has proven that he deserves to be in at least the top 7. And I think elevating his game in the biggest moment has proven that.
All right, I'll throw this out there. So, again, hypotheticals, but what is this world without hypotheticals? He makes it to the Super Bowl, age 24. He really should have gone the next season, but we all know how Brian Johnson happens.
We can't blame Brian Johnson for that whole season. The team just had
but
a Super Bowl hangover and completely collapsed. And some of that is on Hurts as a leader.
The team's fault.
Right.
And
a lot of it's on Sirianni.
Makes it again, age 26.
Right.
We very well could see the Eagles in the Super Bowl minimum the next 3 years.
I think with that's a conversation we got to push off because we'll talk later about who do we have as Super Bowl favorites for next season. But the Eagles deserve to be in that conversation. Tyler, let's wrap up the Hurts thing. Are we going to agree to disagree about this?
Yeah, he's firmly a tier 3 QB, which is not bad. But he's just not top 8. He takes too many negative plays. He has to be in a very particular system with the best run game. The Eagles ran the most run plays of any team in the league this year by a pretty sizable margin, and all the other stuff that I talked about. So because of that, he's a top 12 QB, which I don't think is even like that's not bad. You're a top 12 QB. That's pretty good. I would say.
I don't think you're giving him enough credit at all, anywhere near.
Sure, but like you cited his mental toughness, like maybe, but also again he lost and melted down with the team in the wild card last year. So like
everyone melted down on that team. That was not.
Yeah, that's kind of my point.
It was a complete and total system failure, top down.
Okay, but then,
which is why we had the Nick Sirianni talk.
Right. So where was Hurts' winning mentality and stepping up in the biggest moments when his team needed him most? Then it wasn't there. Like I just think that point is leaning on cool storylines, and he is a good leader for sure. But again, last year, it didn't happen. You know what happened this year? They got better. That's what happened.
Let me ask a question because someone actually said this earlier. It wasn't you guys, but I thought back and I was like, no way. Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo could have won the Eagles that Super Bowl? Aged like 35.
No, because the system is designed to support Jalen Hurts.
I want Tyler to answer that as well.
So this year, Jimmy G? Or like
this year,
49ers?
Jimmy G, like age 35.
Well, no, not
wait. Yeah, those are two different people. Very different.
Definitely
this
not
year,
this
Jimmy
year.
G.
So no, yeah.
Okay, prime Jimmy G.
Yeah, I think probably, yeah.
Wow, really?
Like Jimmy G was not bad.
No.
On the Niners, he wasn't.
I think you're really undercrediting how much Jalen Hurts does for this team.
I think you're underrating how good Jimmy Garoppolo was with the Niners.
I never said I did. I was talking about Jalen Hurts. But I think you look too heavily into his statistical profile against you're too in the numbers.
I looked too heavily into the stats that he has
as
a player.
Yes.
to rate a player. Why we work so well as a team. Tyler looks at the stats
completely.
I just know everything mentally, whether the player has the heart and the mindset to. And Aaron's the absolute perfect balance. We would make a great general manager office, by the way.
I think the three of us need somebody above us to tell us to shut up and make the actual decisions. Like if we were the three heads of scouting.
Stooges.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. I wouldn't be completely sure if prime San Francisco Jimmy G wins the Super Bowl this year, but I guess I'll phrase this to you, the guys that I have in the similar tier. Like, do we think Baker Mayfield wins the Super Bowl with the Eagles this year? I would say yes.
Dude, that would be such a fun conversation to clip.
It'd be so.
We would just throw each quarterback in.
Yeah. Do we think Jared Goff? Yeah, because honestly,
Yeah,
I think if
Jared
the
Goff,
Lions
good.
don't get hurt, I think it's them and the Eagles for the pseudo Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game. Like whoever
People
wins
said this
that
pseudo
would've-
Super Bowl was Eagles Rams.
right. So it just I think it would have been an NFC Championship game. Winner would have beat the Chiefs. Now that
Well,
that
here's the one that
happened.
I've been wrestling with is C.J. Stroud.
Yeah,
Really?
just
I don't think
very
he,
clearly. Yep.
I don't think he does.
Borderline.
I think Stroud. In my head, Stroud, Goff, Mayfield. The three of them give the Eagles a similar chance as Jalen Hurts. The question is, do things break the same way? Right? Are they able to replicate this season the way Hurts does? I think they give them a similar opportunity to. We have talked too long about Jalen Hurts, and I don't think we're going to land on the
I
same
was gonna say
point.
we're not gonna find it, so we can move on.
Let's talk. There's a lot that happened in this game that wasn't just Super Bowl. Kendrick Lamar happened. Do we need to hit on that? We're a football podcast, but Kendrick was fantastic, dude. That was so good.
I had trouble hearing him in the first two songs. I thought the mic was messed up or something. Was that just me,
Oh,
or
I think it might have just been you.
maybe
I
it
had
was
no
just
issue.
my TV? Okay.
Maybe you just don't understand rap.
Well, that was my one note. Is I couldn't hear him on the first two, but then for the rest of the songs I could. So I don't know if it was a mic issue or anything.
I'm gonna have that look in that camera. Just hey Drake, locked in my head for the next 2 years. That was maniacal. That was great. Commercials. Any the seal as a seal.
Oh, the Mountain Dew one.
That was great.
That was so weird.
I think that was the only funny one, which is very upsetting.
Really?
They're
I thought
going
I thought this
further
year was
away.
better than some of the last.
I mean, yes, you could argue that, but the Mountain Dew one was the only funny one. I think a lot of the commercials are steering more away from funny and more like heartfelt. I mean, the only other commercial I can think of that was maybe funny was the Bud Light
That one was good.
with Shane Gillis.
Yeah, with
so
Post
What-
Malone
what-
and Shane. That was good.
but
what was
as
the
far as
line? Is
the
your
best-
what did they say? Is your mower is your lawnmower a smoker? No, my smoker also mows lawns.
I think as far as the best goes, the Jeep commercial was
Yes.
up there.
Oh, that was
and then
great.
That's number one. But another good one was Ram. Ram put up a good one too.
Was that the Glenn Powell one?
Glenn Powell.
Yeah. I thought the Mayo commercial with Sydney Sweeney, as odd as it was to watch, it was a good commercial because it definitely got your attention, and it was a recreation of when oh crap, what's the name of that movie? Something Met Sally. Oh, that it's a old classic movie. I'm gonna forget that. When Harry Met Sally. I forgot the name. When Harry Met Sally was the name with Meg Ryan. And they were in that commercial, the Hellman's Mayo with Sydney Sweeney. I thought it was one of the better years. Moving forward, we're a draft podcast. We focus on the draft. I'm really excited for Thursday's show. It's going to be a blast. What do we think? Let's start with the Chiefs, or let's start with the Eagles because I think it's a simpler conversation. What do we think the Eagles need to focus on going forward? Is it draft? Like, do they need to focus on the draft, or is it purely just bringing back this team? Tyler?
For sure, the draft. I did a video today. The Eagles are built through the draft, right? It's all draft, and then the AJ Brown trade, which is even a draft day trade. So you're leveraging your draft asset there to get
Right.
AJ Brown.
Ironically enough, I think 2 of their 3 biggest moves this offseason were all signings, though, instead of draft. Because you're right, this team is built through the draft. Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, Lenny Dickerson, Jordan Mailata, Cam Jerkins.
Brandon Graham was drafted
Brandon
by
Graham,
Andy Reid.
Reed Blankenship. I mean, but then our 2 biggest acquisitions, Zach Bond and Saquon Barkley, both signings.
Yeah, and I think it's the draft lays the foundation. Because
Yeah.
if you were to say, even take it down a tick where you got one less starter every draft going back 6 years, then the Eagles wouldn't be what they are, right? Even with those signings. And so it's great, and you build through the draft, and then you supplement with signings and some trades, and that's how you build it. So I think the Eagles will need to do that again because it gets even harder when you have to pay a lot of guys and you're at the back end of the draft. So
Paying these guys in a few years is going to be tough.
Cooper and Quinion, when that class hits, and you've already started to pay Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, and you're going to have J.O.
Jacoby Dean.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. There's going to be some really hard decisions that are going to have to be made. Thankfully, there's guys like what they really need is Dean to like underperform one season, and then you just get him all cheap.
I'm really interested to see what they do this year alone because, I mean, Josh Sweat
Milton
is
Williams.
supposed to be getting a big payday. Josh Sweat is like, money's nice, championships are better. Same thing Jalen Hurts is saying. So I'm really curious if he takes a pay cut. Same with Williams. If they just want to like solidify themselves as some of the best teams in all of history,
Right.
might as well. Miles Garrett wants a ring. Bring him over.
I'm gonna roll through the Eagles' current free agents, guys who are not under contract. Zach Bond, Milton. I think we all assume he's gonna get brought back, right? They're gonna give Zach Bond whatever he wants. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, free agent, Mekhi Becton, Isaiah Rodgers, who is playing corner 4 or 5 this year, Kenny Gainwell, Oren Burks, Fred Johnson, backup tackle, Avonte Maddox, who had a really big fourth down stop for them, their long snapper, offensive lineman Zach Driscoll, Paris Campbell, CJ Uzoma, and then we kind of get into the no names. But that's a few really talented starters. I would argue Bond, Williams, Sweat, Becton, those are 4 true starters. And then you have guys like Oren Burks, Kenny Gainwell, and Isaiah Rodgers, who are true depth pieces as well. And they're going to have to make some tough decisions, especially if they want to bring in Myles Garrett, which I think they're going to truly try.
Yeah, I can't even say for a definitive fact that the Browns will trade him. They've stood their ground thus far and said,
I think you
no,
do
we're
so it
not
doesn't
trading
get
him.
messy. You're trying to
know.
go into a new regime. And
We have not seen it work out for the
Right.
franchise when a player requests a trade. So I think that's going to definitely trickle into the offseason. Very, very well could go into training camp. But it's hard. You got loads of guys at important positions nonetheless. Maybe they go long-term deals. They're like, we really like this core. Keep it together as long as possible. Some guys could restructure. Cap spaces are going up. So it's going to be hard, but it's going to be interesting nonetheless.
so really quickly before we get to what position should they focus on in the first round, which I think I think it's going to be D-line, but we'll get there in
If
a
they
second.
don't get Myles Garrett, yes.
Okay. Tyler, you are the Eagles, and you are told, hey, you get to only bring back 2 of Zach Bond, Mekhi Becton, Milton Williams, and Josh Sweat. 2 of them. Maybe 3 if you give up a pick or give up a lot of money. Which 2 are you selecting?
Probably Milton Williams and Zach Bond.
So that means
I think would be my 2.
Sweat and Becton go in free agency.
Yeah,
I think
Steen's waiting in the wings,
right.
in terms of guard, and that's a team evaluation of how he's looked in practice.
Yeah, Jeff Stoutland could make anyone good.
Right, and
I
that's
think
where
if
I'm
you-
leaning on Stoutland for sure.
If you tell Steen, hey, you're the starter, but also bring in competition, I think that could really work out. And who was that? They took a guy out of Georgia, Tanner Keegan, out of Michigan, also a rookie. But I think realistically they're going to bring in 3 of those 4. I'm curious to see who goes.
I think if they tell Becton, hey, you're great, but you had one great year. Take a team-friendly deal. We might pay you later on.
I don't know.
If
That's tough
anyone's
to tell someone if another team is like, but we'll actually give you $5 million a year more than that. You know,
If they are, let them walk.
I think it's going to be a tough conversation, and you can't bring back all 4 of them.
It's based upon who wants to win championships. It's
it is
down to exactly what I mean. I'm not going to back what Cam Newton said about the locker room being a bunch of losers, but some people want money, some people want championships, and if you have a lot of guys that are there to win championships, they will take pay cuts.
And I think all 4 of them really earned their bag this season, and they could get super it's not max contract, but they could get real big money deals in this upcoming class. Draft. I'm leaning edge rusher is where I want the Eagles to focus because Nolan Smith did perform well, but Brandon Graham is still pending retirement. Nolan Smith could fall off a cliff. Josh Sweat, we just said he might leave in free agency, and then you're down to just Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith if you lose Graham and Sweat.
And Bryce Huff is
right, but I'm also like, what if Bryce Huff gets moved?
I'm going to trade him. If you can somehow get his contract off the books, even better, and we can pay him.
I heard but it was before the Super Bowl. Someone said that the package for Myles Garrett would be Cooper, a first, and Bryce Huff.
Nope. I'm
I would
hanging
say
up the
no.
phone immediately.
Yeah, I would say no for sure.
Yeah, I'm with it. I would do 2 firsts and Bryce Huff for Myles Garrett, but I'm not. I don't think Cooper or Quinyon can be in that deal.
I would do a first and a third, and Bryce Huff. Nothing more.
I think depending on how much the price is being
the
driven up by,
the Commanders will outbid them likely because they're desperate.
I hold it
to
to.
get
I
a
would hold
piece.
it to for 2 firsts. I'm not going any higher than that.
I would so much rather get a guy like James Pierce in the draft and take my chances.
So Tyler, I'm leaning edge rusher. It feels like Ryan is too. Where are you?
Yeah, I said the same thing. It depends on free agency because if Lane does change his mind and retires, then I would say tackle. But, it's a little bit up to who you re-sign. At this point, I would say
It's
edge.
a loaded class, so you could
Yeah,
get
it
a
is.
guy later.
That's what I was just going to say is I think you're going to be able to get a really good edge at 32.
I think there's a chance we get another Georgia edge rusher too, if there's one there, which is unreal. The Chiefs don't have, I don't think that as big. They don't have as big of a roster they're trying to recreate, and they have a lot of holes they need to fill, which would be receiver. They have Rice and Worthy, who I think we know are starters, but I think they need one more. Kelsey could retire at any moment.
Hollywood Brown's not bad, but he's not gonna.
Right, but it's weird, right? Pacheco's half decent, but I think offensive line is the big one. We watched 6 sacks go up against him, and including a strip sack by Milton Williams. You have Trey Smith, who's a free agent at right guard. You have Joe Tooney at left guard, who ended the season getting backwalked by Josh Sweat. Creed Humphrey is a great center, but then you have issues. Jawan Taylor is old and kind of underperforming, so it's tackle or guard. And Ryan, where do you land? Which position? Because they're very different positions, and you draft different players for them.
Dude, it's hard. I think I would argue offensive line. Depending on who is available, might sway my decision guard or tackle at pick 31. But I think you can make do with receiver for now and get some guys in the second round. I mean, Jaden Higgins might fall.
The Lad McConkey range.
Yeah.
I think your guy Jalen Royals will probably be available second round.
I don't know about that. Aaron, we're talking Jalen Royals hitting.
I hear you.
No. Jalen Royals will go round 1. I will stand on that. You could keep me.
I like him as a player. I think he should and maybe could go round 1. But I'm not going to lock that in. I think he's a late first, early second kind of guy. Chiefs free agents in 2025. Trey Smith, who we just talked about, Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, Charles Omenihu, Juju, Justin Watson, Mecole Hardman, Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins. That's 5 wide receivers I just named. And the rest is kind of irrelevant, including Carson Wentz, by the way, who the Eagles stopped him from getting another ring. Kind of hilarious. Yeah, that's a hefty free agent class right there.
This is kind of bleak for the Chiefs, I won't lie.
Yeah.
This
felt like the end.
They missed on signing tackles. They missed on receivers. They tried to backfill receivers with the D-Hop trade and with signing Hollywood Brown. It didn't work. They tried to backfill the tackle position with DJ Humphries. It didn't work. And now they're in a bad spot because they need tackle, but they need receiver too because the thing we really didn't talk about is the O-line played bad. I didn't see many receivers open in that game either. So Kelsey is aging. I think he's going to be 35 by the start of next season.
Right. If he was probably going to retire on Sunday if they had won.
And
Noah Gray is not bad though.
No,
I don't want Noah Gray as my tight end 1 though.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I completely agree.
And it compounds because maybe Noah Gray is tight end 1 on the Eagles with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith already is great, or on the the Bengals with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, these teams with other weapons. But you're expecting him to replace your best weapon in Travis Kelce. So this is what I'm saying is it's all compounding and it doesn't look great. And they don't have a lot of cap space either. Like they have, I think it was 12 million in that ballpark. Yeah, 11 and a half with an effective cap space of being over the cap by 2 million.
They lost that Mahomes rookie contract window.
And listen, and you named all the guys they have to bring back. Justin Reed is a plus starter. Nick Bolton is a plus starter. It doesn't get any easier, and you have Jawan Taylor's contract still on the books. Like, so they are going to have to hit in the draft, and not just they need to have that 2022 McDuffie draft again.
Right. They've
done good historically.
Yep.
I just wrote down, based on this conversation, 5 positions that are needs for them. Guard, tackle, defensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end. I think defensive tackle Chris Jones is aging. He's still one of the best in the league, but he is aging. And they have Charles Omenihu on an expiring. Tershawn Wharton, who played well in the Super Bowl.
Get a starter in the 2nd or 3rd round.
It's
maybe even round 4.
Right, but I'm saying need. It's a need.
Okay.
It's not a first round. Like, they don't need to fill that hole in the first round using on a guy like James Pierce, he plays edge. But I'm saying it's a need. So I have 5 needs. That's tough for a Super Bowl team, and I feel like it's really bleak. And I feel like they missed their window, and that might be the end of, unless they retool really quickly, like we've seen, like the Eagles did after winning the Super Bowl with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles. I don't know how they get back this quickly. I definitely would not have them leaving the AFC next year.
I want to make it clear. I don't think they'll be a bad team, but it is just
Mahomes raises the floor.
Yeah, and Reed is still a really good coach. Spagnuolo is still a really good coach, right? And they do have some really elite players, but they need that depth, and it's going to be really tough to get. Again, this is why the draft's big for every team. It's still big for the Eagles. We talked about their free agency. But, man, I don't know if there's a team that this draft is bigger for than the Kansas City Chiefs.
I agree. I think we're going to leave it on that. They need to figure it out, which means they need to listen to this podcast. Thank you all for listening. We will be back Thursday, and I think, you know what? I'm not going to spoil it. You got to come listen. It's going to be fun. I'm really excited. Thank you all for listening. Have a great day, and mind the gap on your way out.